I call this the division of doom. And when you've got 4 teams that just beat the absolute living daylights out of each other year after year after year, expect more of the same this season. And it's not every offseason that a future Hall of Fame quarterback, 4-time MVP, comes into the division. To add a little spice to it, that would be one Aaron Rodgers. Did I mention Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood originated and was filmed in Pittsburgh?
Well, that lines up everything. It's wild to think about because you've got, think about this, Aaron Rodgers in the division, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and obviously I know Cleveland's got their quarterback situation going on, Joe Flacco being the main starter there. In a normal season, it would be a guy like Deshaun Watson, but it's just crazy to think that if that was the case, I mean, these guys at the top of their game, like, it's just crazy to think that we have a division full of quarterbacks like this. It is unbelievable. I know past, present, future, and everything else. And I mean, wow. I mean, this is a division that is, taking new shape, I would say.
Taking new shape. And it's interesting, too, because I've written, and maybe you've seen this, Chase, on TWSN.net. I have written a lot about John Harbaugh and the Ravens recently. Okay? I got a trivia question for you.
Yeah.
Since Super Bowl 47, do you know what John Harbaugh's playoff record is?
Let's see. I'm going to go. He went 1-1 in 2014. He went 0-1 in 18, so that's 1-2. He went 0-1 in 19.
Look at him doing
1-3. 2-4. 2-5. 3-6. He's 4-7.
He is 4-7. He is 4-7. So all this blame that goes on Lamar Jackson for the Ravens' shortcomings in the playoffs, and you and I have been very vocal about this.
Yeah.
Doesn't John Harbaugh deserve just as much blame?
Yeah, I mean, like we've mentioned before, I mean, this is a Ravens team that very well could have made the Super Bowl and everything else over the last couple of years. So they, it obviously goes on to the coach as well. I mean, it's a big part of it because you have to, really have your team up and ready to go. Obviously, the players have to be the one that take care of the business and everything else. And you look at Lamar Jackson as that main person in control. But I mean, it's just wild to think that, we haven't really even talked much about John Harbaugh and what he's meant to the Ravens, even kind of falling off these cliffs the last 2 years.
Well, I don't know falling off cliffs in the playoffs, they've come up short. They've only played in one AFC championship game the last 2 seasons, with what we hear all the time from many people are the most talented roster in the NFL. Okay, fine. If that's the case, then why can't you score more than 10 points against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship? Why can't you go into Buffalo and beat a team that all week I kept hearing, they're so much bigger and so much more physical than the Bills? Okay, well, then they didn't prove it, so to speak. So there's a reason I picked Buffalo to win that game and picked Kansas City to win in 2023. But John Harbaugh, another point I'm going to get to is, and I've told you this, John Harbaugh began his head coaching career when Ray Lewis was still in the prime of his career back in 2008. Now he's coaching the most transcendent quarterback in the NFL, Lamar Jackson, in the prime of his career. So you mentioned the AFC North taking on a new shape. There it is in a nutshell.
That's what it is. I mean, again, you got to find ways to win with the great players that you have on this roster. In Baltimore, over the last couple of years, they've just bolstered their roster with some of the best in the National Football League. Obviously drafting Lamar Jackson in 2018 with a 32nd overall pick, signing Derrick Henry, just last year, and took this offense to, even new and uncharted levels that they could get running the football and opening up the pass game. I know DeAndre Hopkins isn't DeAndre Hopkins of old, but he still has flashes there if needed. So again, putting him in a receiving core and mentoring these younger guys like Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, getting Jair Alexander. Again, he's had trouble staying on the field, but when this guy's on the field, he's a stud. So just like, and Roquan Smith via trade a couple years ago. At every single level, the Ravens have studs on this team. And they just haven't been able to get it done. I think the proverbial cliff that I'm talking about they fall off is against the teams that I'm not saying they necessarily should be, but in those scenarios, I mean, the Ravens had a better roster than the Bills last year, but they went up there in the Buffalo and then they lost the game. They beat themselves. They continue to beat themselves so much that you have to look internally as to who the problem is. And people keep directing it toward Lamar. And Lamar obviously has a good chunk of the blame. But then you're like, where does the other blame come from? It's got to go on the coach and John Harbaugh, because this has been a consistent pattern talking about post Super Bowl 47 going 4-7 in the playoffs. So it's, ironic with the numbers. But again, something has to be done in that regard when the Ravens get back to the playoffs, because this is a playoff roster. It's just going to be interesting to see how they adjust going forward and what tweaks they make as the season goes on, so they don't have those moments where they're beating themselves constantly in the worst time possible.
Traded for Roquan Smith, signed Derrick Henry. Those are two moves that Eric DeCosta, their general manager, has made. And John Harbaugh himself fired Greg Roman after 2022, who was instrumental in Lamar Jackson's development. He hires Todd Monken. That move has paid massive dividends. Lamar Jackson's been named first-team All-Pro each of the last 2 seasons, and he won the MVP back in 2023. Mm-hmm. But at some point, if you as a head coach, and John Harbaugh, look, he doesn't have one side of the ball background. He was a special teams coordinator. And look, he's done remarkably well. There's no question he's one of the best head coaches of this generation. I'd argue he's a Hall of Famer. And I probably don't even need to argue that, but maybe I do. Mm-hmm. But when you think about the fact that you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in your backfield, if you do not get past, if you get knocked out early in the playoffs again this season, I'd have to think, you know what? Eric DeCosta, general manager, and Steve Bisciotti, the owner, they may have to take a good hard look. And maybe a change and a breath of fresh air might be a good thing for Lamar Jackson and company.
I honestly think they should have started looking at it 2 years ago, not just making that sort of, because the thing is, like, I'm not saying that they should have moved off John Harbaugh 2 years ago, because then you look at it as like, okay, who better could we have gotten to replace the void of John Harbaugh? But I think that looking in the mirror should have happened 2 years ago, when you have a 1 seed for the second time after an MVP season from your quarterback in the AFC Championship game, with all the stuff that happened. I truly, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes in Baltimore, but I think some evaluation should have been happening a little bit of time ago, and then they could just keep going and try to build from there. But, I think the seat of John Harbaugh should be a little bit hotter than what everyone else thinks it is right now.
That I have a good segue for this when we go to the NFC North, but sometimes making these changes early is better than later. That may benefit one of the Ravens' opponents this season. We'll get into that. I think we've pretty much answered the first question that we have, the 5 burning questions for the AFC North, courtesy of Lindy's NFL Preview Magazine. I love Lindy's Preview Magazine. I use it every single season, and they have 5 burning questions for each of the 8 divisions. The first question they have for the AFC North: when will Lamar Jackson make it to a Super Bowl? I think the answer to that question is, should it already have happened?
I think it should have already happened, maybe on 2 occasions, and I think there's still a well enough team to do it this year. So I think the opportunity is right there. It just depends on if they can take it. So that's pretty much my answer there. It's right there.
We mentioned the last 2 seasons. Remember 2019 when they got the number 1 seed? They were 14-2. They drew the Tennessee Titans in the divisional round of the playoffs. And what happened?
Teammate Jerry has threw more touchdowns than Lamar that game. So
okay. So there we go. And by the way, it was 70 degrees that night. You literally had everything right in your lap, and you blew it.
Yep.
Okay. Number 2, and we've spent some time on the Ravens. Did the Bengals do enough on defense to return to the playoffs?
Did they do enough on defense? I honestly think they could have made the playoffs last year with what they had. Did they do enough on defense? You could say they did, but why couldn't have they done more to maximize the talent and window of what Joe Burrow has? Why couldn't they have done a bit more?
Did you read Mike Sando's quarterback tiers in The Athletic this week?
I did.
Okay. Did you read the point that he made? Because there's one coach who compares Joe Burrow to Joe Montana, which is saying a lot because Joe Montana is the original Joe Cool, okay? Did you read the point that he made about the 49ers defenses of the 1980s compared to the Bengals defense of last year?
Did not read that part.
Maybe, yeah. You might be better off not reading it. I did, and it was like a harsh reality slap in the face, okay? The 49ers led the NFL in points allowed per game in the 1980s, and that defense was absurd. I mean, guys I can name off the top of my head include Ronnie Lott, who's one of the hardest hitting safeties in the history of the NFL. I'm trying to remember who else that defense had.
Charles Haley.
Charles Haley, yes. He may have been later, actually. Well,
maybe a little later, but I mean, still, I mean, I think he won a few titles with them, actually.
I think he did too. But the point I'm making is, I'm not saying the Bengals have to beat the 49ers in the 1980s, but I'm saying they got to be at least average. And I like to think that getting a new voice as defensive coordinator in Al Golden, getting a new voice on the defensive line in Jerry Montgomery. I think Shamar Stewart's getting better and better, believe it or not, even after his fiasco this entire offseason and early part of training camp. But you watch the Bengals defense in their first preseason game, and you're like, is it still 2024? Because it certainly felt that way watching the game. But, Chase, here's the thing for me. I was thinking about this driving down today. The one reason why I think the Bengals defense will be better this season is if Geno Stone and Jordan Battle can be that safety tandem, even just solid. I'm not asking you to be Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch in Detroit. I'm not asking you to be like Kyle Hamilton and Geno Stone were in Baltimore 2 years ago. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking if you can limit explosive plays, which will in turn allow Al Golden, who the last time he was here was the linebackers coach, to unleash that revamped group led by rookie second-round pick Demetrius Knight Jr., and then you can have your defensive linemen led by, hopefully, and I think it still will be, Trey Hendrickson. You can tee off on opposing quarterbacks. If you can limit explosive plays and make offenses have to go the length of the field and grind out drives, you can wear them down defensively. Because here's what you'll do. You'll put tired offensive linemen right back on the field if you hit quick strikes to Burrow, to Chase and Higgins. Your safeties have to at least be average. Not asking for elite. I'm asking for average. And if you can take the ball away too, even better.
Us fans just want average. Those guys need to be striving for greatness in that building. But again, we understand the writing on the wall. The Bengals just want to take it to the dance, because after that, anything can happen once you're inside.
Correct. Question number 3. Can Shedeur Sanders be the Browns' new franchise quarterback? I'll answer this right away. No.
Not right away, no.
It's not an indictment on him. It's an indictment on the Browns organization. The only quarterback the Browns have had that could have been the franchise quarterback was Baker Mayfield. And what did the Browns do to him? They treated him like crap. They let him go. I think they're still regretting that decision. More like $230 million regretting that decision.
I'd say so.
Question number 4. Has the Steelers Super Bowl window closed? Chase, didn't it close on January 10th, 2021?
I'd even argue it closed back in 2018 in January.
Thank you.
Against the Jaguars.
With our good friend Ian Eagle on the call for that game.
Yeah, the Killer Bees, and then that was the last time that they played a playoff game against each other. I think it closed then.
If you're scoring 42 points, you should have beaten that Jaguars team by 20. Instead, you gave up 45 points.
The Steelers are a copy-paste team over the last 5 years. They've been the same thing over and over and over again. You know, offense has been stagnant, inconsistent. Defense has been great. 9 wins, 10 wins, this, that, or the other. Wild card exit. They've been the same team over and over again. They've been a pretty good regular season team. Once they get to the postseason, we have to do more things than one. Oh, I think it's time to bow out. So that's just what it's been recently for Pittsburgh.
To watch the Steelers the last 7 seasons, it's like watching Carmelo Anthony and the Denver Nuggets. Always good enough to get into the playoffs, but never really good enough to be there's a difference between being a team in the playoffs, or just another team in the playoffs, and being the team you don't want to play in the playoffs. And unfortunately, teams want to play the Steelers because they know they'll beat them by 20.
Here's what I gotta say. And this is not me ratting on the Steelers. This is just me keeping it real. The Steelers try to make that 500 mark and get to the playoffs. It's literally just been like checking off attendance every single year. Oh, we got it. We got our mark. We made our quota. Okay, we already knew we already knew we weren't going to make it this far, but we're
Ask
okay.
James Harrison what he thinks about that participation trophy mindset. I guarantee you he's not going to like it.
A lot of former Steelers aren't going to like it, but guess what? No. That's been the product they've been putting out on the field for the last 5 years or so. So there's your answer. The door has been closed for a second.
Speaking of 5, here's question number 5. How much will the Ravens miss Justin Tucker? This is an interesting question. This is actually a really good question.
Huge weapon, I would say. Last year was, by his standards, atrocious. I think they're still going to miss him because once you get pretty much inside of the 45 in those recent years before, those previous years, you knew that the Ravens were going to more than likely walk away with some points. I think it does change a little bit differently with field position. It changes with strategy on third down a little bit. Obviously, if they have the right guy at kicker and they feel comfortable, then it won't change a whole lot. The offense has become more efficient over the last few years, so they haven't really had to settle with Justin Tucker over the course of time. So I think the Ravens will be okay. But, maybe in those first couple games of the season, it'll be something interesting to look at when they play, the Bills, the Browns defense, the Lions. So I don't know. I think we're gonna see within the first couple of weeks if they miss Justin Tucker really bad. And then I think once we get to the playoffs, if the offense isn't really doing that much and they need a field goal kicker to go out there and hit some big kicks, we're gonna see in front of our own eyes, is what I'll say.
See, here's the thing. When you have a guy like Lamar Jackson that can gain 20 yards on any given play, that's 2 first downs. And let's say you get the ball at the 30-yard line. Next thing you know, you're in midfield. You're already starting to think about, we got to hold them to 3 points. Mm-hmm. And it's most likely going to be 3 points because of how big Justin Tucker's leg was. I mean, He was a valuable weapon for them. And now you bring in Tyler Loop, who was at Arizona. So it definitely is going to be different. But you want to talk about, what made the Ravens so great was they were so great at special teams. They've always been consistently great at special teams. Justin Tucker, Matt Stover before that, Sam Cook at punter. Now they got Jordan Stout at punter. So I think they're going to miss them. I think they're going to miss him, maybe not, exponentially, but to a degree they definitely will. All right, speaking of players, time now to look at the top players in the AFC North, the top 11 players to be exact, courtesy of the Locked On Podcast Network's top 100 players going into the 2025 NFL season. We have a deep appreciation for the Locked On Podcast Network. I actually am going to be hosting the Bengal Squad show, which will debut in just a matter of time as part of Locked On Bengals and the Locked On Podcast Network. So the hosts of every one of the NFL shows, and all 32 teams have a show, they all do a tremendous job, including James Rapine and Jake Lisco, hosts of Locked On Bengals. They rank the top 100 players in the NFL, and there are 11 players in the AFC North. Now, I would have thought there'd be a lot more on this list. Yeah. But 11 is still pretty good. And we begin with the number 1 player on the entire list, not just number 1 in the AFC North, and that would be Baltimore Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. Chase, here's the thing. We've talked about this on this show many times. You can debate Lamar Jackson's better than this quarterback or that quarterback. You can debate whatever you want when it comes to that. Here's the thing. Any one of the big 4 quarterbacks in the AFC, you can make a compelling argument that they're the best quarterback in the NFL, and I at least have to listen to you. That's how good Lamar Jackson is.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have any problem with them putting him at number 1.
Most transcendent player in the game, 2-time NFL MVP, 3-time AP first team All-Pro. How many? I think he's been to 4 Pro Bowls, if I'm not mistaken, correctly.
Nearly a handful. So yeah, he's been that consistent.
Needless to say, he has been just remarkable, especially over the last 2 seasons. Really blossoming as a passer. Yes, he is a 4-time Pro Bowl. Okay, now we get to the number 2 ranked player on the list, who just so happens to be the number 4 ranked player on the list, and that would be Cleveland Browns edge rusher Myles Garrett. Okay. Say what you want about the Browns. Say what you want about Myles Garrett recently being pulled over for speeding. He is a tremendous defensive player.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I don't have a problem with them ranking them at all right there.
So Myles Garrett, I mean, this is ridiculous. Through his first 8 seasons, which is crazy to think that he's going into his 9th season. By the way, have you ever seen a freakier-looking person without his shirt on than Myles Garrett?
I mean, he's built like a tank, is all I got to say.
6-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro, 2023 AP Defensive Player of the Year. He has 102.5 sacks through 14 seasons, 7 straight seasons, double digits. I mean, those are incredible numbers. He's going to be in Canton one day. He is going to be in Canton. But I have to wonder for him, when he's putting up all these stats, he's only played in, ready for this, 3 playoff games.
Yeah. I mean, what? Steelers, Chiefs, Texans. I mean, yeah.
One of them, there were no fans.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to think.
Crazy thing, too, that the Browns, I mean, the second half of that Chiefs game in 2020, they were up against Chad Henne. And then in 2023, they were up against C.J. Stroud. So, I mean, it's got to be frustrating for him. I mean, this is a former number 1 overall pick that has more than lived up to that. Yeah,
he definitely has. I mean, it's interesting. I know at 3 through 11, I want to rattle these off. I want to hear like everything else that's behind these top 2 players and how it shakes out here.
All right, so the number 3 ranked player, the number 5 player overall, that would be Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. Of course, one of the 4 best quarterbacks in the NFL. You could debate in that he is the number 1 quarterback. Chase has made a compelling argument for that. 2-time Pro Bowler, 2-time AP Comeback Player of the Year, the current all-time record holder for completion percentage in a career at 68.6%. He also led the NFL in completion percentage back in 2021 at 70.4%. Chase is coming off a very impressive season, led the NFL in completions, attempts, passing yards, and touchdowns. What more can he do for an encore? I think he's going to be ready for weeks 1 through 2 this year.
Yeah, if you want to hear my thoughts on Joe Burrow, just go back and click on a video of how my tweet ended up on FanDuel, and you're going to hear my thoughts on Joe.
Some might call this a review session before the quiz that we teased on the last show. Okay, the number 4 ranked player on the list and the 7th ranked player overall, Bengals wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase. Ja'Marr Chase coming off a Triple Crown season, just the 6th receiver to win the award since 1970, 4-time Pro Bowler. He was an AP first-team All-Pro last year. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2021, 127 receptions, 1,708 yards, 17 touchdowns. By the way, he only had 97 combined yards through his first 2 games. If those numbers go up even just a little bit, his numbers this season are going to be ridiculously huge.
He wears number 1 for a reason. I think he's the best in the game. If you want to slice it up like Jefferson, Chase, 1, 2, I could care less. I mean, this dude is unbelievable. The best receiver in the division, the conference, I think in the National Football League. But then again, everyone has their own opinions. I love Ja'Marr Chase, and this is a good spot for him.
The Chase-Jefferson debate is a very friendly debate. I mean, Vikings fans will probably tell you the opposite of what we're going to tell you. But you know what? That's okay because they're both really, really good wide receivers.
Exactly.
All right, let's go to the number 5 ranked player in the AFC North, the number 11 ranked player overall, and that would be Pittsburgh Steelers outside linebacker T.J. Watt. So you think Myles Garrett's really good? Well, fellow 2017 first-round draft pick T.J. Watt, just as good. 7 Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pros, and the Defensive Player of the Year back in 2021. 108 sacks through his first 8 seasons. But like Myles Garrett, TJ Watt has to be frustrated. Did you know, Chase, he has not been a part of a single playoff win in his career?
Yeah, I mean, he's been iced out in the playoffs. He's a great regular season player. He's done a lot for them, very versatile player on the defensive side. I mean, for Pittsburgh's sake, they got to get something going so this guy can get some activity in the playoffs and win some games and add more to his legacy instead of just what it's been right now.
3-time sacks leader, 2-time tackles for loss leader. The number 6 ranked player in the AFC North, the number 14 ranked player overall, that would be Ravens running back Derrick Henry. Chase, you know that myth that running backs slow down when they go into like their 9th season or their age 30 season? Derrick Henry's like, hold my beer.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry's been great. I mean, this dude, he's not from the same planet as all of us. So, I mean, yeah, he's built different. Built like a 18 wheel, or whatever you want to call it, whatever truck reference you want to do. I heard a truck behind me. So again, it's he's just a different breed. I don't care what age he is, man. He's done a very good job running the football and just, being that Mack truck that the Ravens need in their offense.
Pro Football Reference has his nickname as the King and Tractor Cedo. Never heard that one, but that's a pretty good one. 5-time Pro Bowler. He's somehow only been a first-team All-Pro one time in his career. I don't know how that figures. 2020 Offensive Player of the Year. He's led the NFL in rushing yards 2 times. He's led the NFL in touchdowns 3 times. He's led the NFL in rushing yards per game twice. Needless to say, we're watching one of the best running backs of this generation. Let's go to the number 7 ranked player on the list. The number 20th ranked player overall, that would be Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson. Chase, when you see all the Steelers and Ravens defensive players that have beaten the crap out of Bengals players over the years, how can you look at that and say, yeah, you don't need to pay Trey Hendrickson? If you have one on the Bengals, you pay him. Agree or disagree?
I agree. Pay the man his money. He's obviously put up the numbers and stats and back things up. Give him what he's worth and more.
4-time Pro Bowler, 2024 first-team All-Pro. So now we go further down the list, and what's interesting here is the drop-off from Trey Hendrickson to the next player on the list is somewhat significant. We go down to number 26. That would be Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton. This guy is a freak at safety, needless to say.
Yeah, really good player. He's a tall safety. He's able to come downhill, make the big hit. Pretty good skills with the ball traveling in the air. You fear going against Kyle Hamilton over the middle. He is a very good player, young player for Notre Dame. Excited to see him enter his prime of his career.
2-time Pro Bowler, first-team All-Pro back in 2023. All right, we continue on down the list. We go to the number 9 ranked player, and he is the number – we're going way down on this list. The number 42 ranked player overall, that would be Steelers defensive lineman Cameron Hayward. You talk about TJ Watt. I guarantee you this defensive line of the Steelers would not be what it has been over the last decade plus if it's not for Cameron Hayward.
Yeah, I mean, he's the centerpiece of this defense in the middle, I would say. I mean, he's obviously been a stalwart when it comes to stopping the run and just being a leader overall. I mean, they look for Cam Hayward for the right direction, and he's given the Steelers the right direction. And everything else. So again, they definitely need him on the field. I know he's got some contract stuff going on, and they just need to get that figured out for their sake and try to win some games this year for Cam Hayward. And he's been a really good defensive tackle over the course of time.
7-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro, 2023 Walter Payton Man of the Year. Truly one of the great men that we have in the NFL. Let's go to the number 10 ranked player on the list. We got to go a little bit further down to get to this player. But the number 10 ranked player on this list is the number 84 ranked player overall. That would be Browns cornerback Denzel Ward, former Buckeye. You notice the theme here with Buckeyes in the AFC North and the Northern Divisions. Jamar Chase called Denzel Ward his toughest opponent that he has gone up against in the NFL. Do you concur with that?
I mean, if he's saying it, then yeah, I'll agree. I mean, Denzel Ward, when he's been on the field and healthy, he's one of the best corners in all of football. It's just been the concussions and other injuries like that have just hurt him, and it's just unfortunate to see, especially, as a former Buckeye and all. But man, Denzel Ward, when he's out there on the field and he's healthy, man, he is one of the best in the game, and really brings an edge to the field where it's just able to jam guys off the line, able to stick to them like glue. I mean, he's just a really good player, and I hope to see him do better, especially not against the Bengals. But I hope to see him do better this season and bounce back for Cleveland.
Nicknamed the Warden a 4-time Pro Bowler. Finally, number 89 on the list, the number 11 ranked player in the AFC North. That would be Baltimore Ravens inside linebacker Roquan Smith. Now, 89 is a little low, but there is no question this is one of the most fundamentally sound linebackers that there is in the NFL.
Yeah, I'll talk about his game. I mean, it's your classic old school middle linebacker where he's just a bully on the schoolyard. He's a very good player, great tackler, communicator on defense, leader of men. Great player in Roquan Smith. As for some of the stuff that he said in the past, I could care less. So I think as a player, he's really good.
Originally a first-round, 8th overall pick by the Chicago Bears in 2018, Roquan Smith now a 3-time Pro Bowler and 3-time first-team All-Pro. That's the top 11 players in the AFC North. Now we go to the AFC North matchups, all 12 of them that we have this season. Interesting, Chase, only 2 are in prime time. Week 7, Steelers or Bengals. That's a Thursday night football game. And then John Madden Thanksgiving celebration, Week 13, Bengals at Ravens, 8:20 on NBC. So that means you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the other 10 current scheduled matchups at 1 o'clock on CBS or Fox.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not used to seeing that, are we?
I mean, it's going to make for good daytime television is what that's going to be.
By the way, Bengals at Browns, 1 o'clock on Fox. Kevin Kugler will be on the call for that game alongside Daryl Moose Johnston and Allison Williams joining the NFL on Fox Family this season. So very happy for her. Chase, I'm sure you've watched her over the years on college football and college basketball broadcasts on ESPN and ABC and most recently Fox. That's going to be a great addition for them. Really excited for that.
For sure.
All right. Division predictions. Chase has shown me his. You may have seen mine. Chase, you want to go first? You want to credit James Rapine and Andrew Fox Miller, enter the jungle and give your division predictions for 2025 in the AFC North?
Sure, why not? I'm going to go with the Bengals winning this division. I don't think there hasn't been a team in this division that's won 3 years in a row. I'm going to stick with that trend. I think obviously the Ravens have the best roster in this division, but I think the Bengals are going to catch fire at the right time. I think they're going to finish 12-5 this season. I've got a lot of optimism. I know optimism has killed us the last couple of years, but I think they got to turn it around sometime, and I think sometime is now. So I think the Bengals are going to go 12-5. I think the Ravens are going to go 11-6. A very talented football team at that. Excited to see what they've got going on. They got better this offseason. A bit of a tougher schedule than what it would be for Cincinnati with playing some of those first place teams like the Bills on the road, the Chiefs on the road, welcoming the Texans in at home, and other sorts like that. And they put the Lions at home earlier in the season, and obviously those guys aren't afraid to go on the road at all. So they won all of their road games last year. So they've got some tougher opponents. I think the Ravens are going to go 11-6. I think the Steelers, their participation trophy of winning over 500 and making the playoffs ends. I think they're going to go 8-9 this year. I say it every single year. I'm like, are they going to finish below 500? I say yes, and then that's what happens. They flip it. It's 9-8. It's the same thing. They meet status quo. Now, here's what I'm going to say. I think the Steelers are going to be, above 500, floating above water once we get late into the season, but I think they're in for a collapse. That's all I'm going to put. I think they're in for a collapse later in the season against some of these AFC North teams. Then we get to the Cleveland Browns. I think the Browns are going to win about 5 games this year. I know, you've obviously had your predictions of them not even getting close to winning any games at that rate, but I still think that Cleveland's defense is going to put them in a lot more games than you think. And I think they can upset some of these teams. Playing at First Energy of a Huntington Bank Field now. Playing at Huntington Bank Field, it is a tougher task than what a lot of people think. And you're going up against the mutant freak on the outside like Myles Garrett. That's called a game wrecker. Games can be wrecked. You've seen it before. I think the Browns are going to win a few games this year. I think they're going to go 5-12. But I think this ultimately could be the Bengals division.
I agree with you. I have the Bengals winning the division 13-4, my number 2 seed in the AFC. I have the Ravens at 12-5. We can talk about what the Ravens and the pressure gains them this season of getting to the Super Bowl and winning it. At the end of the day, they're too talented not to make the playoffs. 12-5, my number 6 seed. Steelers 9-8, because they always go 9-8. I just don't have them in the playoffs. And the Browns I have at 0-17. Seriously, there's nothing about this team. If they don't beat the Bengals week 1, it's gonna get real ugly real quickly. Don't be surprised when they come back from London in week 5 that you hear some things going on in that locker room. I mean, that's got to be a poisonous locker room, if you ask me already. And it may only get worse.